Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. There we are. We're all up and running. Well, it is just so great to be here at Civic Tech again because Civic Tech has basically been the incubator for No More Noise Toronto. I did one of my first presentations here about 3 years ago, and since then, Civic Tech has taken noise and run with it and made a lot of progress in how the city I think is looking at noise and what's going on. So very thrilled about all of this. So I'm going to just do a quick little introduction here about No More Noise, a little bit of history, and then we're going to talk about moving vehicle noise and intelligent instruments. So No More Noise Toronto, we are a grassroots organization that's basically focused on data and process oriented, and that's what's made us different. I have gone out and taken measurements with meters at people's balconies because I listened to Dr. Toru Oyama and he said, we don't know enough about noise at the bedroom window. And I said, yes, because you're talking about averages and I don't live with an average and neither does anyone else. So that's what we're all about. And also process oriented because the city has inherited processes that aren't very functional. And so I pick at that as well. We've got about 1,600 plus supporters. And thankfully, because of how we are working, we're collaborating and building relationships with Municipal Licensing and Standards, Toronto Police Services, Customer Experience Division, and Toronto Public Health. So briefly, Reuben and I, we were yesterday at City Hall and we had a meeting with Municipal Licensing and Standards Policy Division was there. We also had a supervisor from the noise team, Leo Butko, and another gentleman, part of the noise enforcement team. And they are the ones that deal with noise on a daily basis. And often it's really some of the situations that they land in, it's hard to solve. And that's where I keep talking about technology. We need technology to fix this. So we had MLS there. I've had 3 meetings with Toronto Police Services. They've got real issues with moving vehicle noise. Basically, it doesn't work. CXD at the Customer Experience Division is 311, and they are looking at implementing Salesforce into the 311 ecosystem, which I think might be changing a little bit. There was just recently a change at the head level. But I had a call with somebody who's actually going to be designing the user interface for the noise reporting program. So talk about getting in on the ground floor. I was so excited. It was crazy. And Toronto Public Health. Toronto Public Health is going to be coming in and looking at their noise action plan that they drafted in 2019. And they haven't really done anything with it. So what we're going to do is make sure that they do something with it come spring of 2025. And we're all about engaging, educating, and empowering people. Noise has this effect called induced hopelessness, where when you try and do something and nothing changes. So you try and do something and nothing changes, or you keep getting, for me, I keep getting woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I yell out the window and nothing changes. So that's just where we've been told for decades don't worry about the noise, you'll get used to it. Well, now after decades of research, we know that we don't. At 55 decibels, there is a physical impact to our bodies, whether we're annoyed or not, whether we wake up or not. So I'm very thankful for the many people that have actually done that research. So it's an old problem. We've always had noisy cities. In 1713, there was the first documentation of noise pollution, which was the coppersmiths in Venice, because they would become deaf from hammering copper. Then in the 19th century, as the industry employed power-driven machinery, of course, that got louder. In 1905 was the first campaign to reduce noise that was started by a woman in New York City, of course. And then in 1915 was the first time it became recognized as a public health issue, but they didn't have any data. So again, there was just not a lot of attention paid to it. In 1928, the New York City noise map of the city was an almost identical with the map of the traffic on the streets. And then in the 1930s, hot rods came to California, and that's kind of where we still have the hot rods now. We just have new versions of them. In 1972, there was the Noise Pollution and Abatement Act in the US that was put into place by the EPA. And then in 1982, it was defunded. So there literally has been very little progress, both in the US and in Canada, on noise abatement. So that's where we're kind of hoping to get everybody to sing a different tune, you could say. Mm-mm. There we go. So moving vehicle noise, according to the Toronto Public Health Report, is the most common source of noise. In addition, the No More Noise Toronto members, I have a survey going out there. 3/4 of them say vehicle noise, and the exhausts and the backfires and the pops and the burbles is the most annoying noise source to them. It's a health issue, it's a climate issue, and it's an accessibility equity issue. And we keep building more dense cities. The glass and the concrete reflects the noise back and forth. So on the 54th floor, it can be almost as loud as it is on the ground floor. So we just don't get any break, and it's going to get worse. Stock vehicles are getting louder. Here on the image is active valve exhaust settings. So that's basically where there's by the push of a button on the dashboard, the valve changes position to be a little bit more open or a little bit less open or closed. And so if it's closed, that's quiet mode. If it's a little bit open, that's normal. If it's a little bit more open, that's sport. And then they have track where it's fully open. And that's where the noise from the engine just comes right out. So that is stock. That is now what people can buy in their vehicles. Plus, electric vehicles, they say, yeah, well, you know what? They're going to be quieter. Well, maybe not, because now they're putting speakers outside of electric vehicles, not for safety, for vanity noise. So it's not going to get any better. We did a buffer analysis, and basically almost 2 million people live either on a highway or on an arterial road and get hundreds of noise spikes a day. So if we ever do the Toronto Public Health Noise Report again, and we redo a mapping of the city, I'm asking for them not to just do average. They need to look at that high frequency, those high impacts, because that is what wakes all of us up. So they get hundreds of noise spikes a day. And moving vehicle noise is a broken process. We are told to contact 311 for everything. So we call 311 and they basically say, oh, we can't do anything about that. It's a moving vehicle noise. So the case is closed. We're not happy, but maybe we try and call Toronto Police Services. They want a picture. They want the vehicle. They want a license plate. We don't have any of that. It's 3:30 in the morning. I'm in my pajamas. So the complaint is never made, or it's only made once because there's nothing they can do about it. So that's why we need change. And so those physical manifestations of stress, I'm in the room here, I'm seeing lots of nodding, people, we understand, we know it's impacting our health, and whether that's a lower threshold for noise resulting in sleep disturbance, an increased heart rate, changes in our immune system. I personally, when I don't sleep well, it's anxiety, I'm more stressed, elevation of cortisol production. I have a history of stroke in my family. And so every time a Harley goes by or a vehicle backfires, they're taking days off my life. And that's the physical health impacts. And that is what has motivated me to do this. And then what motivated me as well is to contact, when I heard about the SoundVue noise cameras in New York City, I thought, I'm just going to see what I can do here. So I did the contact us form. And Reuben Peckham, he was the one who answered the call. And so we started to connect, and that is where we now are. And so he has come on up, Reuben. He's included Toronto. This is the first time in Canada. So we are pushing the boundaries here and getting change and talking to people about how these cameras work. So I'm going to give this to you. Thank you. I probably was like yelling. If I yelled online, I'm very sorry. I project well. Okay, I'm going to reduce that and then bring you up.
Are you suggesting you're a source of?
I am a source of noise. Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
Okay,
That's working.
I'm gonna put that up
Big
there.
screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Take it away.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's my last night in Toronto. Thanks for coming out in the horrible weather, and I appreciate that I speak funny. If you need to interrupt me because there's something you don't understand, please do so. So I represent a company called Intelligent Instruments. I'm an acoustic engineer. I've been an acoustic engineer for, hard to believe, but 30 years. I'm a graduate, and I've got a graduate and a postgraduate degree in acoustic engineering from Southampton University in the UK. And as I say, I've been doing this kind of work for 30 years. I run two businesses. One is called 24 Acoustics, which is a consultancy specializing in noise and vibration. So we help design the built environment, anything that may be sensitive to noise. So noise sensitive buildings, it might be recording studios, might be theatre, might be a cinema, might be a hospital, etc. And my personal work mainly is in industry, so I help primarily heavy industry, actually. I'm based in Southampton in the UK, which is the port city. It's about an hour south of London, so I work in the port there. I also do quite a lot of work for oil and gas companies and power generation companies, so that's my sort of personal sort of interest, if you like. And the second company that I run is Intelligent Instruments, and we make noise and vibration monitors. And we got into making noise and vibration monitors purely by chance. 10 or so years ago, our consultancy company were quite active in the wind turbine industry. And there is a particular characteristic of sound from wind turbines. When the blade passes the tower, it goes whoosh. So it goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh as the blade passes. Sometimes that whoosh becomes a bang. It's a phenomenon known as amplitude modulation. And when it becomes a bang, it can be pretty disturbing. And wind turbines, wind farms in the UK were being shut down because they were disturbing people. They were banging instead of whooshing, and they were disturbing people living nearby. So we helped write an algorithm to quantify the severity of the bang. And then we looked for a noise monitor that would implement the algorithm. And we couldn't find anything on the market that we could buy that would do that. So we built our own, and that became what we've called an intelligent noise monitor. A little bit of time progressed, and we decided it would maybe be a good idea to separate the two companies. So we started Intelligent Instruments, and that started in 2018. And we make a range of different sort of noise monitors now, noise and vibration monitors, with kind of a wide scope. So for monitoring construction, demolition noise, wind farms, as I said, antisocial behaviour. That might be people shouting in the streets when the pubs are closed and they've all been thrown out into the streets. Industry, we make a nuisance monitor, which is something that an environmental health officer can put in someone's home if they're complaining about neighbourhood noise. That records noise level, and when they press a button, it will record a sample of audio. So the resident that's complaining about the noise is thinking, okay, it's really bad at the moment. I'll press the button and it records 3 minutes of audio, for example. So it's overcoming any privacy constraints with that, and all of that data gets pushed up into the cloud, so the user can basically interrogate that data remotely through the cloud and also look at audio associated with it. So they look at the time history, they see that there's a spike in the data, they can click on it and it streams back to them so they can listen to it, and from that very often they can identify the source. So if we're monitoring a construction site and we see a spike, we can listen to it and we can say, oh yeah, okay, great, that's a jackhammer, or no, it's a helicopter, and we can disregard it. And then the other product, which is what I'm here really to talk about tonight, is our noise camera system. And we call that SoundVue, and the best way of describing that is it's a system to detect excess noise from nuisance vehicles. So this is people that maybe modify their mufflers, so they're driving non-stock, they've modified their vehicles, or they're driving in an antisocial or aggressive way. So they're driving in, rather than when they wait at the lights for the lights to change, rather than pulling away slowly and in a measured, calm way, they're perhaps not quite as aware of their environment around them. They're not aware necessarily that people might be living or working or studying in those areas, and they drive away, they put their foot flat on their floor and accelerate away and make a lot of noise. So hopefully this is going to work audio wise. I've got some video to show you. You guys that are out of the room, if you can't hear this, will you let me know, and we'll try and do something about it. So these are some examples of perhaps why we need noise cameras. We've got a video today. Okay, so we've got audio. We seem to have a lag on the video there. I don't know if anyone can do anything about that. But normally the video kind of works like video in real time. But we'll just work through that. So in terms of how this started, so as I said, 10 years ago we developed a noise monitor. Very happy with it. We were using it in our consultancy work. We were approached in 2019 by one of the councils in London, which is the Royal Borough Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. The clue's in the name. Very wealthy part of London, if you don't know of it. Harrods is there. And this is a genuine photograph, actually. This isn't photoshopped. And they have a particular, hopefully less of an issue now, but they had a particular issue with performance cars, mainly supercars, so Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, being driven in residential neighborhoods late at night. And literally these cars, I mean, this is a genuine photograph. So, you know, somebody sprayed their Lamborghini pink. If you drive a pink Lamborghini, you're probably not the kind of personality that is going to be shy and retiring and not want to kind of go around without people seeing you. So the chances are you might want to drive it kind of in an aggressive, you know, use lots of testosterone, an aggressive way. And this is the issue that they had. So they came to us and said, is there a technical solution? There had been some dabblings in the past. I mean, there was a trial in Edmonton, I think in 2017 for some noise cameras. So it's not a completely new concept at that time. So, but they said, is there a technical solution? So we took our noise cameras, sorry, our noise monitors that we developed for our wind turbine work. We reprogrammed them, we added cameras, and they became the first noise cameras. We piloted 2 in London, autumn 2020. If you remember, we had the whole kind of COVID stuff then. Only 4 years ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago now. We had to fit around everything that was going on with that. But we piloted 2 systems for 3 months at 2 locations. They issued fines, £100 fine, which is in Canadian, it's about $190. And they said no repeat offenders over those 3 months. That was a trial for 3 months, but those systems are still there. They bought them, they've kept them, they're still operating them. And in fact, we have 12 in London as of today. Partly perhaps because the world was talking non-stop about the pandemic and there was nothing else of interest in the news. This was perceived by the media as being quite new and interesting and novel. So we got lots and lots of media attention. We were on the TV, we were in the newspapers, etc., etc. And New York City picked up on this. So the word spread across the Atlantic, and they approached us and said, could they do a pilot? So we did a pilot with them, summer 21 to summer 22, so 12-month pilot, 1 system which they moved around the city, 5 locations over the 12 months. And there you go, that's the first system that went in New York. In fact, that was post-pilot. We now have 10 systems in New York City and more to follow. This is the system, but just in terms of our reach, in terms of where we are now. So we have systems we're in 4 continents. So we've recently started doing some stuff in the Middle East. And in fact, actually just in the last 2 weeks, we've installed systems in the Middle East and in Australia. We're in 4 or 5 cities in the US, not yet in Toronto, but you know, watch this space. We'll see, yeah. And we're in London, a couple of other places in the UK too, and it's looking promising for. It's slow. We're very much restrained by legislation, particularly in the US, where the legal system's very, very fragmented. It's very regionalized. So typically, from somebody saying, "Yeah, this is a great idea. This is something we want in our city," to actually being able to implement it, even as a pilot, you know, that period can take at least a year, probably closer to 2 years. But this is the system. Actually, this is a slightly older photograph. It's been changed slightly since then. But we have an environmental microphone here. This is a Class 1. Some of you may be aware of this. It's Class 1 accuracy microphone, so that's defined to an international standard. So it's a robust, precise, accurate, calibrated microphone. We have a processor, sound cards, modem in the box of tricks down here. Effectively, from here to here, it's a sound level meter, basically. We have 2 license plate reading cameras here, and then we have a microphone array here. So we have just 4 microphones in the array, and we have a fisheye camera in the center. And what this does is it uses the concept of time of arrival, which I think some of you might be familiar with as well. So it takes time so if the source is over here and it's moving in this direction towards it, the amount of time that it takes the sound to hit each of the microphones is slightly varied. There's a tiny delay, and we're talking obviously thousandths of a second, but it measures that delay and it can triangulate the location of the source. So, and the purpose of that is if we've got multiple vehicles and one is being naughty and making a lot of noise and the others are not, this is the technology that identifies which is the offending vehicle. That's obviously really important when you're talking about finding people and law enforcement. And what that does, so this part places a little red marker on the offending vehicle, and then the LPR cameras know where to focus, and they read the license plate. And yeah, so we have, I should say, right, so the other thing is we have algorithms that detect noise source based on engine noise, exhaust, mufflers, horns, music, Jake brakes. If you're not familiar with Jake brakes, the video of the orange truck, I've got some other Jake brake video in a minute, but the video of the orange truck, that was a Jake brake. That was driving through the center of New York City. And a Jake brake is a system where I don't understand entirely how it works. We don't have them in the UK, but it basically, they recycle the engine exhaust gases, put it into the braking system. So it's literally a flick of a switch. It's a valve, I suspect, somewhere that does that. And it sounds horrendous. It sounds like a machine gun. So it's very, very disturbing if lorries, trucks pass with their Jake brake on. So it's illegal, certainly in most US cities, to operate trucks with Jake brakes. And like I say, the kind of the people or the vehicles that we targeting, performance cars, say supercars, cars with V8s, big engines, cars that have had modified exhausts, and anti-social driving. And it's really important to emphasise that the system is it's not tackling the car, it's tackling the driver. So as I said at the start, you have a choice. If you drive a performance car, you have a choice on your driving style. You can drive it in a controlled, measured way, or you can choose to drive it in an antisocial way. And it's about the behaviour. So driving in an aggressive, noisy way is a type of antisocial behaviour, just like shouting in the street is. So our system, it triggers on those different sources and a predefined noise level, which varies from site to site. When it triggers, it sends a 14-second clip of audio, noise level, and video up into the cloud. The user can look at that and then review the data and decide what to do with it next. So some territories are fining, so New York and London fine. Others are just issuing warnings. More and more now are starting to move. Obviously, it's down to legislation, and they're moving towards fining. But again, that's taking time. It's taking time for the bills to be passed for that. This might be obvious, but this is kind of before and after. So before we had this sort of kind of semi-automated technology, you would need an officer on the ground with a sound level meter, be very time intensive. Quite a lot of expertise is needed to operate a sound level meter, training, etc., and it's costly, and it needs a lot of resources to really get any kind of results. We now have a system which it can be completely automated, but generally it's semi-automated. So it's possible to process and detect multiple offences fairly quickly. So I have some more video here. I think I've got 3. So these are actually video screenshots of our front end. So this is what you see when you log into our system. And just to explain it, this is a site in Miami. And what we have here is 2 cars. There's a black car and a silver car. They're waiting at this intersection. And you'll see them approaching the system and then pulling away, and then you just see them moving from left to right. This is probably the screen to watch. You'll see the red dot. You'll see that they're going side by side. Without the microphone array, you wouldn't be able to tell which is the one that's causing the noise. But it's clear that we identify the offending vehicle. The screen then scrolls down. You get a time history of noise level, and we get the license plate. So I'm just going to play it, and it'll be self-explanatory, I think. So this is a Dodge Charger. Apparently, we don't have them in the UK. So I've learned about American cars. So there you go, really clear. You can see the dot on the tailpipe, and we've got the license plate. The noise level from this was 110. That's dBA, and that's, if anyone's familiar with the metrics, it's LMAX slow. In New York, just to put that into context, that's at 50 feet. In New York, they fine at 85. So that's really loud. That's one of the loudest examples we have. This is a site in the UK, and it's just a car, sort of a performance car and a truck competing with each other. Okay, and I'm I'm just wondering what car that was. It doesn't say, actually. Might be an Aston Martin, being in the UK. If any of you are into, I think we call it football, I think you might call it soccer. That particular site is just outside Manchester, and it's a town where a lot of the Manchester United footballers live. Say no more. Last one. This is my favourite. I'll just play it, and you can. I guarantee you're going to be singing that tune all night now. It gets in your head and it won't go. So again, we've identified the vehicle. Maybe an easy one to identify as he was definitely look at me and going really slowly. But we've got his number plate, and as he's in the NYC, he's $850 worse off now. And I think that might be it.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll wrap us up. So you have Reuben's contact information there, which is so nice to share. And so you can find out more about No More Noise Toronto at nomoreNoiseToronto.com. We are really looking forward to 2025. We're going to look at building task forces for amplified sound, for construction noise, for all these different noise sources. I can't know it all and I can't do it all, and we need to do it together as a group. There is going to be a motor vehicle task force as well. And we're looking to push things up to the province, and I will need every single one of you to help me. So thank you so much. We're available for Q&A, and we will also be for the main breakout room. So questions? Yeah, correct. Okay, there we go. Clap time. Thanks everyone online. I really appreciate you joining. I know a number of faces there, so I appreciate that. Questions from the room in the back. Oh, sorry, Tristan. I'm just taking over.